You keep telling yourself that you'll change tomorrow, but tomorrow never feels any easier. Every time you start, your willpower disappears like it was never there, and deep down, you're scared that you'll never break this cycle. You watch time slip away while you stay stuck in the same place. You want discipline, but you feel like you're fighting a battle you can't win. And the worst part is thinking everyone else has it figured out except you. You don't fail because you're lazy. You fail because everything around you is designed to steal your attention, and once it grabs you, it doesn't let go. You want to climb higher, but the first steps feel impossible. You keep waiting for motivation to magically appear, but motivation isn't coming. You look at yourself and wonder, why can't you just try harder? But trying harder doesn't work when willpower is already empty. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. Discipline has nothing to do with willpower, and once you understand that, everything changes. You've been relying on motivation like it's a fuel tank, but motivation runs out fast, and when it does, you collapse. You keep trying to lift your entire life at once. No wonder it feels impossible. No one can carry that much weight. You overload yourself with huge expectations. Tell yourself you'll change everything in one day, and you break under the pressure. You see the entire staircase and convince yourself you can't climb it. But discipline is about climbing the whole staircase. You blame yourself for not being strong enough, but strength isn't something you start with, it's something you build. And the moment you stop relying on willpower, that's when the door finally opens. Discipline starts with something so small it feels almost pointless. But that tiny seed is where everything begins. You don't need willpower to plant a seed, you just need to start. And once you start, the next step becomes easier, not because you're stronger, but because the task is smaller. That tiny sprout is your first win, and one win is all you need to begin discipline. You realize discipline isn't about doing big things, it's about noticing the small things that grow. You check off one tiny task, and suddenly you feel something you haven't felt in a long time: momentum. Your excuses start to crack, not because you forced yourself, but because you finally proved you can start. You learn the truth: consistency beats willpower every single time. You don't need a blazing fire, you just need a small light that never goes out. And once you take one step, the next step doesn't feel as scary. You realize you don't need to change your life, you just need to improve 1% each time. And those tiny habits become the ladder you climb. You look back and realize you've already climbed higher than you thought. And for the first time, you feel something new: belief. But discipline isn't smooth. The storm always comes back, and this time you don't run. You hold your habits tight, even when everything tries to pull them away. You slip, you stumble, but you don't fall the way you used to. You protect your progress like it's fragile, because it is, but it's also growing stronger. You keep moving even when it's slow, especially when it's slow. You feel tired, but it's a different kind of tired. It's the kind that means you're growing. You break free from the habits that used to control you, not with force, but with consistency. You see the streak forming, and suddenly discipline doesn't feel impossible anymore. You walk differently now, not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent. You lift small weights every day, and small weights build big strength. You stop relying on willpower completely. You don't need it anymore. And that door that once felt impossible to open now opens easily. You step into a version of yourself you didn't think you could become. And you realize the truth: discipline wasn't built by willpower, it was built by tiny steps you kept taking. You wake up one day and realize something changed. You're not waiting for motivation anymore. You're building your life one tiny action at a time. You start tracking your wins, even the small ones, and those wins become stacking into something powerful. You build discipline like it's a wall, one brick at a time, not fast, not perfect, but steady. You stop letting distractions control you, not because you suddenly became strong, but because you finally became intentional. You take back your time, not all at once, just a few minutes each day, and that's enough. You stop staring at the whole staircase. You focused on the next step, and that's when climbing becomes possible. You realize discipline isn't something you do, it's something you become, and that identity unlocks everything. You step into a new version of yourself, not a perfect version, just a consistent one. You start taking on slightly bigger challenges, not because you have more willpower, but because your habits made you stronger. Your flame grows, not from force, but from consistency. Another light is a path ahead. The storms still come, but they don't knock you down anymore. You've built something stronger than willpower. You pull your old habits with less effort. They don't control you the way they used to. You start choosing growth over comfort. Not every time, but more often than before, and that's enough. You plant more habits, more routines, more tiny actions, and each one grows into something meaningful. You look around and realize your life is changing, not suddenly, not dramatically, but undeniably. You see the streak you built, and for the first time, you trust yourself. You don't see the same person in a mirror anymore. You see someone who follows through. You climb higher without forcing yourself. Consistency carries you upwards. You leave the old darkness behind, not because it disappears, but because you outgrew it. You gain something stronger than willpower, your self control, and it feels steady, not fragile. Your habits begin to support you, they follow you, they guide you, and you lift them up. You stop believing your excuses. They don't sound convincing anymore. You see a future you never thought you could reach, and now it feels possible. You understand discipline now. It's not a punishment, it's freedom. You walk a path built from tiny steps, and every step makes the next one easier. You raise your standards, not to impress anyone, but to become someone you're proud of. You stand at the doorway of your future, and this time, you're ready to walk through. You step forward without hesitation, because you built the strength to keep going. You look at what grew from a tiny seed. You realize how far you've become. You're not the person who waited for motivation anymore. You're the person who shows up. And in the end, discipline didn't just change your habits, it changed the way you see the future. And that changes everything.